What's going on, guys? Drewzy here with yet another South Park Phone Destroyer video here today. And real quickly, before we get into the kind of the meat potatoes of the video here, as Cartman's here to help me out with obviously what I'm going to be showcasing here today. But I recently did the most recent event that was going on in PvP over the weekend. And it was the first one that I was able to fully complete all the way through. As far as there's been 3 main events that I can recall so far within the early stages of the game. Hopefully this event comes back, as there were 2 exclusive cards that were available in this last event. One was Hercules Clyde and the other one was Medusa Bebe. And Medusa Bebe, of course, was a legendary card, which I noticed on both Facebook and Reddit that some people were able to get Medusa Bebe. I unfortunately did not. As you see, I posted the picture here of me fully completing the event. I did get 2 Hercules Clydes, so unfortunately I can't get even Clyde past level 1, which kind of sucks. So hopefully this event gets reworked in maybe within a month or 2. So hopefully, if anyone from Ubisoft is watching this, hopefully you guys will bring this event back soon. I really liked the event. I liked a lot of the cards that were to be used in the event. I had a lot of the cards available to me, and I was able to do fairly well, fairly easily get through the event. Obviously, it was Thanksgiving break, which was kind of nice, able to have some extra days off work and be able to grind through the event. But let me know down below how you guys did in the event, if you were able to get Medusa Bebe or Hercules Clyde, or if you got nothing and you got kind of screwed over. If so, that sucks. It really sucks. So one thing that I mainly noticed through the event is, of course, something that I've talked about in PvP is having one tank. And the main tanks that I noticed throughout the course of the event was the Cartman cards were being used as the main tanks for most of the people's decks. So a lot of people, of course, have been able to unlock probably Sheriff Cartman by now. He's probably the easiest of the 3 to get. And of course, he's an adventure card. He's a rare, and he's he's a pretty solid overall tank. His charge ability is pretty strong, decent health, decent damage, things like that. But I want to go through the first 3 Cartman cards, break down the first 3 cards, and give you some suggestions for cards that I think you should utilize with him in a deck. I feel like, so we're going to, of course, start with Sheriff Cartman. With Sheriff Cartman, you need to utilize the fact that his charged ability is probably his best asset. The fact that he can then creates this bullet tantrum storm around him is devastating to an opposing team. They can just wipe out a whole bunch of little troops, things like that. That could be overwhelming you or your team on the battlefield. So Sheriff Cartman would definitely be one that I would suggest to level up early as far as the Cartman cards, if you're able to get him, because he's easier to obtain since he's a rare card versus the other 2 that I'm going to showcase. I would say Sheriff Cartman is definitely better in a PvE setting maybe than PvP. He's useful in both, in my opinion, but I think he really shines more in the PvE aspect, because especially in the later stages of PvE, there's going to be a lot of areas where you're going to be finding multiple spawn units, a lot of rats, or a lot of cocks, things like that. Just to kind of give you a heads up in that, especially in chapter 10 and 11 in the campaign, to not spoil too much for you guys, but there's going to be a lot of spawn units that you're going to be finding, and his charge ability is extremely useful in that aspect. I've utilized him in a PvP deck and done pretty well with him, and I see him in a lot of PvP decks just because he's so easy to unlock, and people have him at higher levels. They have him at 2 and 3 right now. I have him at 2, and I'm going to work my way to get him to 3 here, hopefully relatively soon. But because of his easy availability, he's just been a lot higher as far as in the ranks. But, I mean, his versatility, the fact that he can be utilized with a lot of different cards, there's not really, I mean, this is a deck that I've really been utilizing with him mostly. It's got mystical and adventure cards. And to me, really, with Sheriff Cartman, you want, hopefully, I would suggest having a lot of cards that have additional CC or a good amount of assassins. Usually about 3 or 4 assassins pair very well with them. So Bendita Sally, Smuggler Ike is very good, and then Nathan and Captain Wendy can do a good job as far as giving that CC, and Nellie also does some good CC as well to really pair well with Sheriff Cartman. That would be my biggest suggestion. Get some CC cards, usually the range cards. Get 3 or 4 assassins with him in a deck, and he does pretty well. He really holds his own, in my opinion. So that would be some suggestions I would say with Sheriff Cartman. The next one is the sci-fi version of Cartman, which is the Awesomo 4000. Now, he is an epic card, so he might be a little bit trickier for you guys to obtain, at least early on in the game. He's pretty easily obtainable. I've seen him a lot in the PvP shop for myself. And of course, that's obviously luck of the draw as far as what shows up in your shops. But I've seen him in the shops a decent amount in my experience. As you see, I have 2 of 3 right now. And I'm liking Awesomo a lot more lately. He's a little bit more expensive in the energy cost. He's 5 versus the 4 that Sheriff Cartman was, but he's got more health, I think 150 plus more health, a little bit more damage, and his charge attack where he freezes enemies with a cosmic stop is really nice. It's an aura effect, so it doesn't freeze everyone on the battlefield just within a certain aura, but he's got a good amount of health for a level 1 tank, and as you see, it will jump up to over 700 when I rank him up here, hopefully soon. But I'm liking Awesomo more and more. He's really good in a control-based deck. There's a lot of sci-fi cards that are control-based, and he pairs really well with them. So, you know, I would suggest if you're going to use Awesomo, use him in that kind of instance with more of a control-based, control-focused style deck. And cards that just work really well in that instance. Of course, Program Stand. Program Stand has a similar charge attack where but with his, he freezes all enemies on the battlefield, not just in the aura like Awesomo does. So Program Stand, probably one of the best epic cards in the game with his low cost, with his good amount of health and damage. He's just very, very strong and pairs extremely well with Awesomo. So he's a good choice. Another card I would suggest with him would be Cyborg Kenny. Cyborg Kenny, his Death Wish I think is a little undervalued, and I'm gonna go and break down the cards throughout the course. This is the Cartman one or the first one that I'm gonna do, but I plan on doing a multitude of videos with the different Kenny cards, different Butters cards, different Tweak, Wendy's, Kyle's, so on and so on and so on, and kind of compare and contrast, what works best with those other cards. I like Cyborg Kenny with Awesomo because of his Death Wish, that he heals and controls a unit killer for 10 seconds, which is a long amount of time, and that can at times turn the tide of the battle for you. If you're controlling an enemy that just decimated your Kenny real quickly, he can then turn around and kill multiple of their enemies and stop a push coming at you. So, I mean, Cyborg Kenny isn't necessarily 100% needed with Awesomo or Program Stand, but Program Stand and Awesomo are the two best to be paired together for that build for a control deck. But I like Cyborg Kenny. I think he's undervalued. I think he's a strong assassin for an epic card and just throughout the course of the game as well. And last but not least, we have Zen Cartman. So Zen Cartman is the other Cartman card that's currently available within the game. And Zen Cartman is a little undervalued as far as a PvP card. He is an extremely good PvP tank. Wouldn't necessarily suggest using him in PvE quite so much. I mean, I'm not saying you can't use him in PvE, but because of the fact that he doesn't do actually any attack of any kind, I think kind of hinders his usefulness in PvE. But in PvP, he's really good. He's a phenomenal distraction card, especially late game. If you have a 1-bar lead and you're trying to, hold out the last 20-30 seconds of a match to then get the win, Zen Cartman is a great card to just drop down because he's low energy cost at 3. With that energy boost you're getting late game, you'll be able to get him out very quickly. And then he's got a stupid amount of health. I mean, as you see, I got him to level 2 about 2/3 of the way to rank 3, and he's got 757 health, which is really, really nice. His power duration with his charge, where he attracts all enemies within an aura, lasts for 4 seconds, and the range gets extended throughout the course of it. So it's fairly wide range. But the fact that he has a decent range, good amount of health, he doesn't do any damage yet again, but I mean, he's a rare card, so he's going to be easy to obtain, similar to Sheriff Cartman, and I think he's undervalued and is very popular in PvP. So I'm not saying he's undervalued in PvP because he's extremely popular. He was one of the cards showcased in the last event that I did, that I talked about at the beginning of the video. So I think that, I got way more appreciation for Zen Cartman because of that event, because he was one of the cards to be used in the event. And I just think that, I've seen him in PvP even outside of the event play, but I think he was really showed his strengths that he provides in a PvP battle because of that event, in my opinion. Some cards I would pair well with him, pretty much assassins, or also one that's really nice is Friar Jimmy. I liked Friar Jimmy, and I used Friar Jimmy. He was also an event card, but I liked Friar Jimmy's aura health regeneration. So he does an aura that's constantly going on throughout the course of a fight, that he's healing constantly. And I think that was really useful for Zen Cartman to be able to continue that distraction longer by giving him a little bit of extra heal. So I really liked pairing a Friar Jimmy next to my Zen Cartman, because Friar Jimmy does a pretty good amount of damage for a common card at 52 damage, decent amount of health at 232, 231. He's very easily obtainable once you get into the mystical cards, and that extra heal was super nice. Generally then, a bunch of assassins are really good. Hermes Kenny worked really well for me. I've used a variety of different kind of assassins throughout the course of, you know, of my gameplay. Regeneration worked really nice to be able to heal Cartman back up a decent amount of health per second throughout the course of a fight. So pretty much any kind of thing to heal to keep him alive longer would be cards that I would suggest. Angel Wendy worked well as well because she has a nice little heal with her charge. So that would be my suggestions as far as Zen Cartman, to get those extra heal units out there. Well, I want to keep this video kind of short, guys, so let me know what you think of the first 3 Cartman cards, and if you agree, disagree with me with some of the selections I made as far as cards to pair with them. I'm not going to talk about Grand Wizard Cartman, which is a fantasy card. He is a legendary card because I haven't obtained him yet. I haven't obtained any legendaries, still grinding out to try to get that first legendary. But if I do get Grand Wizard Cartman, probably showcase him and talk about him a little bit more once I obtain him and get some more knowledge of the card. Since I only really have knowledge of the first 3 Cartman cards, it's kind of dumb to me to start talking about, you know, Grand Wizard Cartman. I've faced Grand Wizard Cartman a few times. He's strong if played correctly. He can be taken out relatively easy, similar to Man Bear Pig, but for a tank, a legendary tank, he's pretty good if you use him in the right moments of a fight, and he can help you really overwhelm. Because I got overwhelmed both times I fought Grand Wizard Cartman in the last event. But, you know, so just trying to keep this one short, guys. Let me know what you guys think down below. My special thanks to Cartman here for helping me out with this video, guys. And, you know, I appreciate the continued support I've had on the channel here, guys. It's been really nice, been really awesome. Keep it going, please. It just, you know, encourages me to continue to make these videos for you guys. But until next time, guys, my name is Drewzy.